The question says, what, if any, are the faults in the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that all that a woman may show are her hands and face? Please give proof, explain. I don't have all my notes with me, but basically this is the hadith of Asma, in which the Prophet ﷺ told Asma that when a woman reaches the age of menstruation, then nothing should be seen of her except for her hands and face. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Aisha, and it has been recorded by Abu Dawood. The one who narrated from Aisha, his name is Durayk, he never met Aisha, so the chain is broken. And also one of the later narrators is also weak. Now, one particular scholar, a famous scholar, perhaps the greatest scholar of hadith alive today, his name is Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani. He studied this hadith and he said, yes, this hadith, this chain by itself is weak, but then he found some supporting evidence for it. Remember how we said that you might have a weak hadith, but if it's supported by other narrations, you will raise it to the degree of hasan. So he found two other supporting evidence for it, and he concluded that it is hasan. But if a hadith is very weak and has major defects, then you cannot raise it. That's the principle, that if it has major defects, you cannot raise it. It's, in other words, 3 or 4 very weak hadith, all narrated by people who have no adala or no integrity whatsoever, will not become all of a sudden hasan or sahih. Well, I studied in detail his argument, and I cannot see how he raised that hadith whatsoever. I studied all of the narrators, and in fact he did. Unfortunately, for example, in one of the other chains, there's a narrator called Abdullah ibn Nahiya, who is well known among the scholars of hadith. His books were burnt, and after his books were burnt, he narrated, and as we said, the ikhtilas is not allowed, especially not in hadith. And he used to mix hadith together, and he made lots of mistakes in hadith. But even before his books were burnt, he is considered by many scholars a weak narrator. Even before his books were burnt. Well, Al-Albani, in discussing these particular hadith to support this particular chain, he only brings the good narrations about Ibn Nahiya, and he does not mention, as he mentions in other books like Silsilat Hadith Sahiha, Da'ifa, his other books, he does not point out that in fact Ibn Nahiya is in general a weak narrator, especially when he narrates in the form of Ma'anan, which is the hadith form that he used in that particular supporting evidence. So the other two hadith that he uses to support the hadith of Asma have major defects, and they cannot be used to support that hadith.